Hi guys, welcome back to session 72 of Java Full Stack Made Easy. In this session, we will talk about MySQL and we will be talking about the very fundamentals basics of MySQL. There will be another dedicated series for SQL itself. So in this session, we will only be talking about those things that will be essential for our full stack course. Now, the very first thing that you have to remember is that for MySQL, you have to download and install the MySQL, right? So I'll be giving you the link in the description. So two things will be required. One will be the community server, next one will be the workbench. So these are the two things that will be required to run our MySQL server. So MySQL is the SQL type of database, okay, and as I have told you, in future we will also learn about the NoSQL databases as well, which is gonna be MongoDB in our case. Fine. And as far as SQL is concerned, we will be learning about the MySQL. So you can go for the Oracle database if you wish to, or you can go for the Sybase, Informix, any MS SQL, any SQL databases available in the market. You can use any SQL database. Only thing is, while coding our Spring Boot applications, only the way how we connect to the database, that is going to be our that is the connection string, will be changed. Other things will remain as it is, because obviously since it is Java based, so Java is platform independent. It can connect to any of the database available in the market today. Fine. So then the next thing will be, once you install this, you should be able to see a workbench like this. So you'll see MySQL workbench. You can see that here. So I will also I will give you the link in the description for which particular version you have to install, because if you look at the MySQL official website now, they are providing you MySQL 9. So for which the workbench still does not support it. Reason for that is that the latest stable version is 8. So for that version itself, we have the SQL workbench. Okay, so if you are gonna make use of this workbench and all, so ensure that you install the MySQL that I give you in the description. Fine. So the next thing is, you open the MySQL workbench. You will see that here there are some connections while installing. You will have one user, that is root, which is kind of an administrator in SQL, and that will be there by default. While installing, you have to give the password for that root, and you have to also remember that particular password. So once that is done, I'll just open this particular connection. You will see the connection, and from there you can start building your MySQL stuff. Fine. So after that, what you need to do is, you will not see this particular screen. So you should be seeing this screen, and you can go for file, new query tab. Fine. So once you go for file, new query tab, so here you can go ahead and create your databases. Fine. A database is a collection of logically related information. So this is very basic fundamental things we will be talking about in this particular session. Okay, so do remember, a database is a collection of logically related information. So the kind of database management system that we are using, the kind of DBMS, that is database management system. Database means what? Collection of logical related information. Management system means a software that is used to manage your database. That's what DBMS is all about. And we are using RDBMS, relational database management system. Now what is that relational database management system, right? What is R in that? So R in relational database management system refers to a relation. That means a table. Okay, so when we are talking about a table and relational database management system, RDBMS, so let me write it here so that you can see it. So DBMS, database management system, okay, a software which is used to manage the database, where RDBMS means a software that is used to manage the relational type of database. R here means a table. Okay, relational database, relation means a table. R stands for relation, and relation equals to table. Okay, so that means that data is strictly organized in tabular format. So whatever data you have in your database must be there in a tabular format. So there are certain set of rules that we have to follow if we have to maintain. Obviously the databases, they follow the rules and they maintain the data integrity. That means they maintain the truthfulness of data. I will obviously be creating a separate complete series for SQL, because SQL in itself is a subject. But here in this session, we will be learning only about the essential things that will be required for us to be to connect our Java application, the Spring Boot applications, with our database. Fine. So for that, we are just highlighting the things that will be required. So we will be working with the relational type of database management system, where we will be having the data strictly stored in tabular format. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how are we going to dive in with the things. So you open your MySQL workbench, connect it to the database, and then open a new query tab, and within the query tab you will be writing the queries. So I'll be writing the queries here, and then I will paste the query onto my workbench. Why is that? That is because I just this is more clear, right? So this is more visible and more clear, so we will be working here itself. So it should be a create table. So we are creating a table to store the information. Maybe the information of the students is something which we want to store. Okay, so create table students, and then what I'm gonna do is I'll just be creating some simple properties for this student. Like for example, I'll be creating roll number for the student. So roll number will be of type integer. Fine. And similarly, I'll be creating the name of the student. Name of the student will be of type string in Java, right? So but here in SQL it will be varchar. Varchar means variable characters. Fine. And for varchar we have to also provide the length, how many maximum characters this varchar can store. Okay, so that will be there. And similarly, what we can have is we can have the course of the student. Okay, which is again of type varchar, and the varchar may be 50 again. So 50 characters will be the length of this. That means the maximum length. You cannot store a course that goes beyond 50 characters. Similarly, we can have the marks of the student. Let's define it as int. So that way we can create the table. This is the syntax of creating a table. For every column you define its data type, and then what you can do is you can simply keep giving commas till you have the next column. So for the last one, I am not giving the comma. That's because that's the last column. So I should be able to create the table now. So that's the syntax of creating a table where we can store the data. So I will just run this piece of code. So you can see that create table student roll number, no database selected. So for creating tables, you need a database. Fine. So database, collection of logically related information. That means if it is the data about the student, college and all that, so student, college, faculty, it's about the student management system, right? So here we have to create a database, and the command to create a database is create database. See, SQL language is pretty simple. It's very simple. It's like speaking to the compiler, the MySQL engine. Create database, the database name, let's call it as the students DB or my DB or anything. Fine. So we will be creating a database, and I will just select that create database command, and that will create a database. You can see it here, create database, student DB is created. Now to enter into that particular database, we use another command called as use the database name student DB. So once you use a student DB and run this piece of code, you will enter into that. So student DB, I think I have missed, it is students DB. So let's get into the students DB. You run it and use student DB. Now we are into that particular database. Now we can create the table into the database. So we have successfully created. You can see that create table student roll number and all is done. So this way we can create the table. So once we are done creating this particular table, now what we can do is we can insert the value into it, we can retrieve the value from it, we can delete the value, and all that can be done. Similarly, the entire table can also be dropped from the database, and for that what we can do is we can do a drop table name, that is students in our case, right? So if I hit this particular command, okay, and always ensure that you select this particular query and then execute it, because if you select it and run it, that means it is going to run only this particular query, not the entire stuff. Okay, so I'll run this, and you can see that drop table student. So now the table student has been dropped. Okay, So now if I try to retrieve anything from this table, nothing will be there. So why did I drop this particular table after creating it? First thing is to show you how your table looks like, and the second thing is that while creating a table, if you wish to suppose, I'll create this table once again, and now what I'm gonna do is that I want this roll number to be unique. That means the entire table, all the values of this table will be identified by this roll number itself. That means in a classroom there can be students with the same name, but you cannot have students with the same roll number, right? So such cases, what we can simply do is that we can create these type of roll numbers as primary key that uniquely identifies the table. Okay, so we have brought in another keyword over here, that is a primary key. It's a primary key ensures that the values into this roll number are unique and they should be known value. You cannot store a null value into a primary key column. So what is a null value? A null is unknown value in database management system. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, since I've created a table, I want to check what all data is available into this particular table, and that can be done by using a select star indicates all columns from the table name. So select star from table name, that is the students. So when I do a select star from students, I should not be getting any data here, right? So you can see that select star from students. So when I'm retrieving this detail, there is nothing in there, right? Because there is no data exist into this. Now what I will do is I will try and insert some details into it and then see what is the data available into the student. So let's perform an insert into table name values. That's the syntax of inserting the values into a table. Insert into table name, that is students values. So what all are the values that I want to store? I can store all the values together, or if I wish to store some values, I can store some values. So as of now, what I'm going to do is I'll be storing the first value, roll number 1. Second, maybe I will store the name of the student, and then the third one is the course, right? So course I will give Java full stack and the comma, then the marks of the student, right? So I'll give it as maybe 85, 80 or anything. Okay, so let me just run this and you can see that insert into table student db does not exist. Okay, that's fine. So it is students, so I have written students. Okay, typo. Now let's run this piece of code. So the moment I run it, now still it says students does not exist, but I think I have that table. Let's run this. Table students does not exist, so we did create this. Okay, create table students primary key 0 rows affected. Yeah, now that is created. Let's go for the students. So there is no data in the students. Now let's insert the values. So now I have inserted. Now you can see that the records are inserted. Now just I'm gonna copy this, select to start from the students, and now if I check the details into it, you can notice that I have some data present into the table. Now what is that data? The data that we have entered: roll number 1, Rahul, Java full stack, and 85. So as I told you about the primary key cannot contain a null value, that is the unknown value, and primary key cannot uh, contain the duplicate value. So what I'm gonna do is I will try and store both of that and check. So I'm just doing a insert into students and I'm repeating the roll number 1 here, and I try to run this, I get an error there. Okay, so that should not happen. You can see that duplicate entry 1 for the key student primary key. So this should give us an error. That's because of the primary key stuff there. Okay, now that's the error. And similarly, if suppose I try to insert any other thing apart from this, that's fine. Everything else can be duplicated because not everything is primary key there. So I'm trying to insert another record there, and I run it. Now once I run it, you can see that the records are inserted, and if I select that once again, so I get it. You don't need to write this command again and again. Once you have already written that command, you can select the command and run it. Okay, now you can see that the records are inserted. Since I have not made this roll number duplicate, so rest all things are duplicate. Because the roll number is primary key, it cannot be duplicated. Rest all things can be duplicated. Okay, so that way we can create the tables, we can insert the records into the table, we can retrieve the records from a table. So once you have large amount of data, at that time you can uh, read it based on the conditions and all. So okay, let me insert one more record in here. We had Rahul's detail stored twice, and suppose if I want to remove that record, so I can simply go for delete from students. Okay, and what value, like I can say if I do a delete from students, everything from the student table will be deleted. Okay, and if I want only this roll number two's record should be deleted, what I can simply do is I can say delete from student where the roll number equals to 2. So what it does is it is going to delete only those records where the student's roll number is 2. So you can see that one row affected, and if I select the records now, you will see only one record being inserted there. Similarly, now that I've inserted the record of Rahul, I will insert another record. Let me give the roll number as maybe 45, and I'll give the student name as Rohit, Java full stack, some score maybe 90 or something, and the record is inserted, right? So one row affected. Similarly, I would like to insert one more record. Okay, I'll give the roll number 18, and obviously I'm inserting Virat, and considering his recent form, not less than 100, right? So let's run this. So now what I can do is I can simply select the records and see all the records being inserted. Now that the records are inserted, when I'm retrieving everything, so I was doing a select star from select all columns from the students table. Similarly, what I can also do is if I just want to know the name of the students that are there in my database, I can simply say select name from the students. Okay, so if I do that, I will get only the names of the student. You can see that 3 names of the students are there. If I want to select more than one column, like a name and the roll number is something which I want, I can simply do a roll number. Name and roll number will be retrieved. Okay, and suppose if I want those students who have scored maybe marks which are more than 85 or maybe more than 90, I can simply say select name and roll number, or you can go for all details so that we can see the marks as well. So select start from student where you can apply a condition like where the marks of the student is greater than 85. So all those students who have scored more than 85 will be retrieved to us. So you can see that since I have 3 records into the database, Rahul's record will not be retrieved because his marks is not greater than 85. So you can see that I have inserted that record 85. So Rahul has scored 85, but I am retrieving those records that are greater than 85. So if I retrieve the record, like if show me all the records that are greater than or equal to 85, now I will get the detail of Rahul as well, because it is going to match the other condition which will be equal to. So that way we can filter out the records by using equals to and a where clause. Okay, you can make use of an like operator and all that. So we will see that as well in our later part. But as for now, our focus is more on what the CRUD operations into the database, like inserting the records into the database, creating the tables into the database, deleting the entire table and deleting the records. So what we have seen is we have seen how do we create the database, how do we create a table, how do we insert the records into it, how do we retrieve the records from the database. Let's now see how are we going to update the records. So suppose I want to change the name of this user or maybe a roll number. I want to update. Let us first update the name of this student Rahul. Let's make it KL Rahul. So let's see how do we do it. So I can go for an update and then the table name. So it is going to be update students. The syntax is update students. Then we can do a set. So what we want to set, we want to set the name. So what name we want to set? Name equals to. So the name that I want to set is gonna be KL Rahul is something which I want to set. Fine. And then if I do this, only this, then every name will be KL Rahul itself. So I don't want to do that. So if I want to change the name of only that student whose roll number is 1, so I can simply go for where roll number equals to, okay, where roll number equals to what? Roll number equals to 1. So wherever there is roll number 1, you go and update that particular record and change the name to KL Rahul. You can see that. So it has done, one record is matched and one row is affected. So what we can simply do is we can retrieve the record once again and see the details. So you can see that name of Rahul is changed to KL Rahul, right? So that way we can perform an update. Anything can be updated. If I want to update more than one thing into one single update command, I can just put up a comma and update it. Like for example, let's change the name to KL Rahul, or yeah, KL Rahul, and also at the same time I want to change the roll number or maybe marks or anything. So roll number equals to 1. So Rahul's roll number is already 1. So let's change it to 2 or something. I don't have a roll number 2 there, and where the roll number is 1. And instead of the scale Rahul, I'm just gonna make it as scale Rahul new, because previously that name was already updated. So I'll just run it and you can see that one row is modified. And if I want to retrieve that, I can simply say select star from the students table, right? So when I do that and run it, you can see KL Rahul new and roll number together is changed. So even primary keys can be updated, but also during update the rules will be followed. What are the rules? The rule is like what? Uh, Duplicate entries are not accepted, null values are not accepted. Now what is a null value? A null value is a unknown value. You can see that null over here as well. So if suppose we don't know the marks of a student, at that time we can just consider it as marks of student as unknown. We cannot give it as 0, right? So 0 is a value. 0 is a value, so we cannot just say marks of the student as 0. That's why there is something called as an unknown value, null value in databases. If I give the marks as 0, it is completely going to change the meaning of that particular data. So to maintain the credibility of the data, truthfulness of the data, database provides us a unknown value called as the null value. So apart from the primary key, other things can be kept null into this particular table. So we have seen how do we update the records, and also uh, we have seen how do we retrieve the record based on the where clause and update the record based on the where clause. If we want to order this data, we can sort this data as well, like maybe select start from students and we can perform an order by. So what we can do is we can say order this students based on their marks in descending order. Okay, we can do a order by descending. We can simply write DESC, that is for descending, and the descending what, the column has to be provided. Order by marks in descending order. So if I don't give it, by default it is ascending order. So when I go for a descending order, you can see that the top mark scorer will be at the top. Okay, so that way we can order the data irrespective of how you have inserted the data. It is going to order the data accordingly. So if you write if you just say order by some column name and don't write anything over here, it is going to be an ascending order sort. So you can see that when I run it, it is going to sort the marks in ascending order. Okay, so that's how we can make use of the order by. If we wish to write ASC, that is ascending order, it still accept that. If you don't write it, by default it is in ascending order only. Okay, so similarly let me insert maybe one more student record and then show you the record about concept about the grouping the data. So we can also group the data, like let me insert the record and show you what exactly I mean by grouping of the data. So for grouping I would require some more record, 2 or 3 more record. Accordingly we can group it. So I have an insert into let me just give some random details, 3, and maybe Pandya, and Pandya is not joining Java full stack. Maybe Pandya has joined for uh, Angular course. Okay, and some marks maybe 92, 93 or anything. Okay, and similarly I will take one more record, maybe insert 4, and Pant has also gone for the same course, that is Angular. So in this records that I have, you can notice that I am actually creating uh, 2 courses, right? So 3 students are in Java full stack course and the 2 students are into uh, the Angular course. So what I want to do is I want to, maybe if I want to count how many number of students are there in each course, or maybe I want to get the average marks of that, all that can be done into grouping the records. So I want to know that how many students are there into Angular course and how many students are there into Java full stack course. So how do we do such things? So for that we can simply say select, we need the course name that shows us what students are there in what course, right? So how many students in fact. So course name, and then I can say count all students, like count all, as maybe what, see, this as is just to name the column. So if I may or may not give it, it is optional. So let's call it as what, total students. Okay, and from the students table, and we can simply go for a group by, and group by what, group by the course. So now we have two courses, and it is going to group that, and also it is going to give us the count of that particular course. So 3 students are there in Java full stack, and 1 student is there in Angular is what it shows us. First let me just check whether the second record is inserted or not. Select star from the students. It should actually show us 2, right? So let's run this, and whose record is not inserted? Yeah, Pandya's record is not inserted. Let me insert that record. So now that record is inserted, 1 row affected. Now this query should give us 2 there, right? Yeah, so you can see that it is giving us 2. So that way we can group the data, but while grouping the data you need to ensure that any column that is included into the select is either included into the group by, or it is returned with a aggregate function. That is the rule. Now I will violate that rule and see what happens. So I'm including a name column into the select clause, but the name column is not included into the group by. So when I violate that rule I get an error. Why is that? This sounds illogical. What I'm trying to group, I'm trying to group it based on the course. So end result will be 2, that is there are 2 courses, right? Java full stack and Angular courses, and I want to retrieve the name of the student, so I cannot do that. So for one student I cannot just map a course, right? So course will be retrieved once, and the name will be retrieved thrice or twice. So that cannot match, because the database rule is what, one first normalization of the database says that each cell in a database should precisely contain only one value. So that way we can retrieve the records in group by. So this is gonna give you an error. Always remember, any column included in select must be included in group by, or an aggregate function should be used. So you can see that in the in this particular example I'm following that rule. So the column that is included, course column is included into select, course is included into group by. Count is not included, right? Count is not here, so that's why uh, I'm counting the total of this. Any column can be taken, maybe the count of what, count of marks or anything can be taken here. Let's say count of marks. When I say star, it is all the columns. Okay, so I can go for count of marks also. So it's the same as well. So marks column is included here, but marks column is not included into group by. So because of which I am including a aggregate function with the marks. So that way we can work. Okay, so let's go for what, getting the average marks of the student in each course. So instead of count, what are the aggregate functions? Count, min, max, average. So these are the aggregate functions that has to be used. Now this is gonna give me what, average marks of the students into each course. So first course average is 91, second course average is 74. Okay, so that way we can make use of the group by clause. With group by also we can make use of a filter. With a group by, the filter is what? Having is the filter of group by. We can filter the groups. So what we can from this result, we can filter out the record where the average mark students are more than 80 can be retrieved. So what I can simply do is I can use a select and I can go for a group by course. I can go for a having. Okay, having what? Having the average marks. Okay, I've taken the total students, right? Always ensure that in databases we don't usually use the space. Okay, so total sum we can use, we can consider that as a column. So total students, or this a more meaningful name of this column would be average. Average underscore marks, let's call it as average marks, or else you will be confused with the average aggregate function as well, right? So we cannot give that. So it should be an average marks should be greater than 80. So if I give average marks greater than 80, what it is going to give us is only one result. The second course average marks is 74. That's why that is not retrieved. So that way we can make use of the general SQL commands like inserting the records into table, retrieving the records, deleting the records, dropping the entire table, creating the table, retrieving the records based on the condition, and grouping the records. So all this can actually be done in SQL. Maybe in future I'm going to create a detailed tutorial about SQL. If you're completely new to SQL, you can watch that series. Once I finish off this series, then only I'm gonna try and start the SQL series. Okay, so you can find that this particular course into yeah, Angular repository. So in this repository I'm gonna just go forward the SQL as well. So let's call it as day 72, and let's name it as SQL demos. Okay, or yeah, that would be fine. Day 72 SQL demos. So all the SQL demos what I have written in here, like how do we create a database, how do we create how do we use that database, how do we create a table, how do we drop this table, how do we actually create a table with a primary key, how do we retrieve all student records, all that queries I am giving you here. And based on that you can try this in your machines. And once we start our Spring Boot, at that time we are going to connect to the database and perform this operations from Spring Boot. Okay, so I hope you have understood this simple queries. And maybe after this session I'm gonna give you even with this SQL demos one more file. I will add it here and also give you the comments what which query does what. And also in the video description you will be able to see the links that I have used to download the database. And you can also install the same version. Okay, so see you in the next session. And in the next session we will start with the Spring Boot. That means Spring Framework. In fact, Spring Boot is the module, one of the module of Spring Framework. Most of the people, because it is very famous, so most of them they consider Spring as Spring Boot only. Spring is not just about Spring Boot. Spring has a lot more modules into it. So we will be discussing that in our next session. So if you are liking in the series, stay tuned with the series for our last technology, that's gonna be the Spring Framework, and in between we will be talking about the Mongo database as well. So see you in the next session. Thank you for your patience.